I'll just do this. I don't know if I can write anything down. I don't think I can because I lost my pen.
Want me to hold it, Carl?
Yeah, okay.
I should be able to handle that. All right, Marion, I'm driving.
All right, so, did we get the minutes from last month,
Yes.
or the last meeting? I didn't see them.
I have them right here, Marion just sent them.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't have my phone.
You want us to read them to you, Kyle?
Let me just look over your shoulder.
Someone probably should read them out loud, I just got them.
I mean, I'm not expecting any surprises or anything. All right, so, when did it come in?
Just a little while ago.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Marion, they're reviewing the minutes. Do you have them?
Oh, I've just typed them up, yeah.
Oh, okay. I guess you have them then.
Yeah.
Yep,
I
okay.
can review them. If there's anything wrong, I can fix them.
Short and sweet. All right, if we've all read them, do we have a motion to accept?
I move.
Okay.
Second?
All right, seconded by Rich. All those in favor say aye.
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 All right, any opposed? Okay. Okay, so, add or delete agenda items. I got an email earlier from Karen White, is Karen White in town? About someone who wanted to join the conservation, the Heritage Commission. I looked up the bylaws too, and that's true that it is, we only have 5 members and then alternates, so this person would have to be an alternate.
Serve as an alternate.
Yeah. So then I got an email later today saying she can't make it to the meeting. So,
Well,
You
Okay,
know-
maybe in the future, yeah.
she's
Oh, yeah,
welcome
yeah.
to come along if she can make it next time.
yeah, go to the hearing.
Do you know who it is?
Again, I don't have my phone in front of me.
Okay.
No, Jessica, I can't recall her last name, but she lives over on Pearson.
Okay.
So, let's see, what was the other thing? Okay, so I can't think of anything new. Public input, I don't see anyone
We
here.
we should have a change to the agenda though, Kyle. You have the wrong address for the Wilson House. It's 152, not 158.
Okay, yeah, I couldn't remember that,
Okay.
and it's Google Maps, so. Okay, so for this hearing that's coming up, I need to put an agenda together for that. So let's talk about what that should be. I would think that we should start with a description of our role and what we do, and reassure people that it's not our role to deny demolition permits, but if something in this case is proposed to be demolished, that it's our role to discuss alternatives to that to try to preserve. I'm thinking maybe after that, a brief history of the property. Would you be willing to do that?
Sure.
Okay, all right, and then after that, public input.
Have we gotten any feedback at all from Wilson?
Marion and I went down to deliver the sign to Wilson.
Okay.
And so we delivered it to Keith. I'm not sure what his last name is, who's the farm manager
Okay.
for the Wilson family. And we talked to him for quite a few minutes, and they are not really interested in being in the house rental business. And the people who were living at the house, in the house at the time it burned, were in the process of moving anyway.
Okay.
They just hadn't gotten out by then. And so the amount of damage that was done to the house, although it doesn't seem significant, at least from the exterior looking at it, he said, well, he had been advised by the building inspector that any attempt to fix the property would have to be brought up to modern day code. Now, I'm not exactly sure of that, because you can't take an 18th century house and make it into a 21st century house. And, you know, old structures, historic structures have fires and get restored, they don't get torn apart and demolished and so forth, so that maybe needs to be looked into a bit further. And at any rate, it didn't sound as though, at least from my impression, that the Wilsons would have any interest in doing anything with the property. He said it's too close to the farm to consider selling it. You know, the only thing that could be done is, I suppose, if someone wanted to have it moved and put onto another property, since they're gonna demolish it anyway, they probably wouldn't care about that, although I don't know that. And that's where they stand.
There's probably quite a bit of salvageable material inside the house, isn't there?
Oh, yeah, well, because it didn't burn on the interior, the most of the damage apparently was in the attic,
Okay.
where it went up the side of the house and ran the attic. And, but I don't think the interior rooms were burned. It's a very similar situation to Broadview Farm, which was the old Campbell house.
Mm-hmm.
When that burned up the center staircase. And it could have been easily repaired and restored, but the Campbells decided that they wanted to demolish it. They were in the process of selling that farmland, which became Broadview Estates, and so,
Budview Swamp.
yeah, so they didn't attempt to restore it.
Have you been in the Wilson property?
Not since it burnt. I had been previously.
Okay. So, what are, the purpose of the hearing is just to discuss it publicly.
Right.
Can we do something to save it?
Can we do something, can we entice them in some way?
Talk them out of it,
Yeah.
Yeah,
propose something else.
To come up with some suggestions of maybe we could do this or that or the other thing, because our job really is to, once the building inspector receives an application for demolition, we're to review, particularly as we know, a building more than 60 years old as the currently have rules written, to determine if it has historical, cultural, architectural significance to the town, which it does. In that case, then we need to proceed to have a hearing to see how the townspeople feel about that, which is what we've set up to do.
and that will be on site, the
No.
hearing?
No, it'll be.
At the town
It'll be
hall.
at the town hall in
Yes.
the
Okay.
big room.
And we have a date for that?
The 25th
25th,
Yes.
yep.
of January.
Which is what day of the week?
Wednesday, I think.
I'm not sure.
I think it's a Wednesday, yeah.
It's
Is
Wednesday.
that the week of school vacation?
That I do not know.
I should know this, but I don't.
I think it might be.
Okay. Does that pose a problem?
If it isn't, I may have a conflict because my committee meets on Wednesdays
Oh.
in Concord. What time of day?
7 at
Seven.
In
night,
the
right?
evening.
7 at night.
7.
7 p.m. Okay, well then that shouldn't be a problem.
Oh, okay, all right.
That shouldn't be a problem.
Okay.
And so,
Thank
One
you,
of the-
Marion.
what I did this afternoon was in about, I think it was,
Oh, that's what you brought.
yeah, I brought the survey. It was
Gotcha.
from,
Well, no, the
Yep.
book of photos, I didn't realize,
Yeah.
I didn't make the connection.
this was put together by it's a reconnaissance survey form that was done in 1987.
I think I remember.
And all the houses along the main road that were of historic nature were surveyed. And of course, this farm was. And so there is the Wilson already owned the farm. They bought it in 1974. There are a lot of mistakes in this because it was just asking people who owned or lived in the homes to do this evaluation of the architecture and so forth and so on. So there was a lot of guesswork done unless a home had come down through a family. and more knowledge was done. And so, even the dates of the property, this lists it as a transfer of 1803. Well, it was, that's an ancient Bixby property. Daniel Bixby was the clerk for Brenton's farm, for William Brenton. And he was here in the 1600s. And not living here, but he'd come up from Boston because they were figuring out what they were going to do, dividing the property here and so forth, and he was in charge of all of that. And so these Bixbys are his descendants. And a Captain William Bixby is who built the house in question. And it was built in 1794. When my grandparents bought the house in 1944, the last Bixby alive in Litchfield was Selah Bixby. And she told them that it was 150 years old that year, and that her grandfather had built it and so forth. And it was an extremely well-built house. The Bixbys were always an affluent family. They had made a fortune in the timber and brick trade on the Merrimack River. And it was very well maintained, right up through the time of the Wilson purchase, when it was always privately owned. And then for quite some time it was used as the house for the farm manager. And when there was no farm manager living on site, then it began to be rented out. And so it showed a little bit of wear and tear from having renters in rather than homeowners.
When about was that they started renting it? When did they start renting it, do you know?
I'm not sure when they started renting it. I think the last farm manager that I recall living there was Bob Roy.
Okay.
The gentleman who was somewhat handicapped
Yes.
that lived there.
Yeah.
Was he a farm manager?
No.
He wasn't.
No. And as a matter, are you sure that is the house he lived in, or was it the other one at the end?
No, I think he lived there.
Yeah.
And his relative was the gentleman who used to sit on the stone wall.
Oh no, they were renters. They were renters, Rich.
Okay.
Yeah, there were
So
two.
they did.
Stephen, the person who, the farm manager told us that the person who was renting it, who lived there, works on the farm but is retiring
Right.
now.
Yeah.
And so they don't
He was.
need a
Yeah,
spot
he was
for him to
an
move.
employee.
They were in the process of moving over
Right.
to
Milford.
someplace else.
Milford.
I got the impression that those people were maybe foster type people that lived with them. No?
Yes, there were two people, special needs people, who were often sitting on the stone wall waving as cars went by and so forth.
Yeah,
I used to bump into that special needs person and the gentleman with the stiff leg, I'll say, maybe 20 years ago at the National Y.
Oh, okay.
They used to go to the National Y,
Yeah.
but they were together.
Right.
So I sort of assumed that
I
there
think
was,
that there was a relation,
okay.
somehow related.
But I also saw that man, the adult, work at the farm. I'd
Okay.
see him at the store and so forth. So I just, well, I didn't make any particular assumptions, but, so assuming we convince them to not tear it down,
Yes.
what could happen to the property?
Repair.
Well, it could be repaired, and it could be, again, used to house one of their farm workers or a farm manager, although Keith lives just outside of Concord with his family, so I'm sure he's not interested in moving down there, although he manages the farm. And, there are other things, if they didn't want to rent the house out, but it was fixed up, it could be used, it could be loaned out to Historical Society. We could have some sort of little museum in there. It could be, I was sort of thinking that they maybe could subdivide off an acre there and sell the house with 1 acre in front, even though it's very close to the farm.
I don't see any reason why that couldn't. I
Right.
think
I noticed
Right.
it's all one lot, and I couldn't think of a reason why not to subdivide it. I mean, I'd have to look at the regulations and see
Yeah,
what's
yeah,
I
required.
would think there's plenty of.
Well, there's quite a
room
bit of
there.
frontage between that house and DeRoche's that you could get an acre lot there, I would think,
That would be a wonderful solution.
and not encroach too much. The barn is just around the corner, but so what? If you live in a city, you've got neighbors just a few feet away.
Nice stone wall, I
Yeah.
think it'd be a charming house.
I can't remember what the minimum lot size is. If they
1
have a-
acre.
Is it 1 acre
Yeah.
if they have
In
a septic
Litchfield?
system?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought it was more, but okay.
And the other thing is the house could be moved.
Yeah.
You know, it's no big deal to move a house today, but you'd have to have a piece of land somewhere to put the house on. The town does own quite a bit of land in terms of conservation land and so forth, that that's a possibility. If we had some way to raise funds and,
Do you have any idea how much it would cost to repair it and get it livable?
I do not. I have not seen,
Yeah, I'd have
I
to
have
look at
not
the
seen the
inside.
interior damage that was done from the fire. But, you know, I'm sure that they carried adequate insurance, that they could fix the house back to its condition. You know, as we said, a lot of it is exterior damage. And then fixing the attic space, and probably that would require a new roof on the front part of the house anyway.
Maybe sister some joists or rafters.
Yeah.
If you look close enough, in any of the old homes, you'll see charred wood.
Oh, yes, yeah, they often hit fires, they
I'm-
got
I'm-
put out.
I'm still looking for some in my attic because I
Yeah.
understand there was a fire there at one time.
Well, it burned it all down, except for the back part of the house.
Oh, okay. All right.
So the front part of the house was destroyed, but back where your dining room is and so forth, that's what's left of the
Yeah,
old place.
you can tell that's the oldest part of the house.
Yeah, two
easily.
different periods there.
Easily, yeah.
My house, it's the crawl space. You could see all kinds of charred wood
Yes,
in the crawl space.
Yeah.
And that occurred, I believe the back part of the house was put on in 1907. So it's in that part, so it's since 1907. I see no evidence in the front part, you
Mhm.
know, but, okay.
Okay.
so if we have to come up with a little plan for this presentation, meeting to discuss and so forth, so we have some ideas
Yeah, just present some ideas.
of what we can do. Some other things that we may want to show, I brought, that I pulled out today, some historic pictures of the property. This is Litchfield, still a one-lane dirt road.
Yeah.
And that one, this is the house from across the
Wow.
street.
Holy cow.
Another across the street. Is that, and this one was in 1987, when they were doing the survey.
Yeah. Is there one of those for our house?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah. Yes, every old house. And this is looking south.
man, does that look different?
Yeah, this is across the street.
The stone wall hasn't moved too much, has it? Still in the same
It's
spot.
built to last, right?
And those are all the house pictures. in
Oh,
here.
yeah.
And there were beautiful elm trees
Yeah,
in front of the
beautiful
house.
old elms in front of the house. And what's different on the property is the corn crib, which still stands, Wilson's moved. It used to be on the side lawn of the house. And it's been moved over to the other side of the stone wall. So when you're coming up, you'll see a little red building there. That's the old corn crib,
I'll have to look. Okay.
as you're coming north.
Oh, I think I know what you mean. All right.
So where are we?
So, public input, present ideas. Or should that present ideas, should that go before the public input? Talk about the history of the house,
Yeah.
just
Yeah, just
throw
so
out
that
some
people
ideas,
have
all right.
a basic idea of the history of the
Kind of
place.
where we're going with it.
And this, I can forward these pictures to you too, Carl. This would be an interesting thing for them to see. This is a needlework sampler.
Okay.
And when you enlarge it, you will see the death notice for Captain William Bixby in 1829 on it. And it was done by one of his daughters. And it's now in my house, but it was in that house for a century and a half.
Okay.
See that?
Yes, I've seen it, thank you.
Okay, present ideas, public input. What else would we need to do?
I think that, we need to hear exactly why the Wilsons don't think that the property is worth restoring. What made them come to that conclusion?
Okay.
And is this Andrew at the end of the table?
I'm Patrick.
Patrick,
Nice to meet you. What's your name?
Stephen Callowell,
Great.
nice to meet you.
What's your name?
Gail Berenger,
Nice to meet you.
nice to meet you.
And you know what house we're talking about?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
We have Carrie on the phone.
Oh,
I mean,
Marion.
Marion. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry about that. Marion. And then, do you know Rich? You know Rich.
yes,
Okay,
of course.
yeah. Okay.
Everybody knows Rich.
Rich, could you hold up that picture for me?
Which one, Marion?
The one one's right in front of you.
I wonder if we should move the ask the Wilsons for reasoning to after.
Can
the
you
history.
see that?
No, you have your thumb in front of the camera.
Oh, jeez. Oh, man.
Brief
We're
history,
all such techno
and then ask the
giants,
Wilsons
aren't
to
we?
speak, and then
Yes.
public input.
Keith was not sure that the Wilsons would actually come.
Can you
Yeah,
see?
that's
Okay.
better. Oh, yeah, that's
They
beautiful,
may
yeah.
See the
give us
wall?
representative. He's not sure.
Okay.
He said he's going to try to
Well, they
encourage them.
wouldn't go 90
Okay.
on that road, would they?
I'll put it in
No.
alphabetical order.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's a great picture.
It sure is.
okay.
I wonder if, it looks like there's a mud hole there. So it must have rained because,
That is Charles Bancroft Highway.
Right there, I see.
Prior to being the Charles Bancroft Highway, it was called originally the River Road.
the river road.
The River Road.
Was it ever officially called Litchfield Road?
People referred to it as Litchfield Road because it was the main road coming through
Oh,
Litchfield.
yes, that's nice. I remember that. That's how it looked when you pulled in the driveway, yeah. Where is that, across the street
Don't know.
or behind?
Across the street.
Stephen, where's the one that's all the trees? and no
Across the street.
house?
It's across the street.
Beautiful, yeah. Yeah.
Here's a nice picture of a cow.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, that is, oh, look at the house in the back. That's a beautiful picture, really. I love that one.
You know, they used to have a llama in that.
Yes.
In that-
Yeah,
I think I remember that, yeah.
Do you,
Llamas
do you
and
remember the
goats.
name of the llama?
No.
No.
Dolly.
Dalai Lama.
That's awesome.
And remember, they used to have their Clydesdale horses up there
Okay.
when they first.
I don't remember the Clydesdales,
Yeah.
I do.
but they had
I
a
remember
picture.
the Big draft horses, yeah.
They had you could feed, it was something like McQuestion Farms, you know, they had the lot there, and they had this llama there, and they had a sign that said Dolly the llama,
Huh.
and you could, kids could feed but you know, I'm dating myself, but that was probably 30, 40 years ago.
Okay.
But who now runs Wilson Farms?
The Wilson family.
And when you say the Wilson family, is that Calvin's generation?
No, the next generation down,
Oh, okay, so,
because John and Calvin have both died. So
okay,
it's the next generation.
okay. So nobody that has a particular attachment to this?
I'm not sure how much involvement the current generation has had here in Litchfield, other than owning the property and raising their produce here.
Yeah. I know when Calvin lived in town,
Yeah.
but, yeah, he's been dead quite a while too.
Yes. All right. And so you were asking, Carl, about switching.
Yeah, I'll put this in order. Let's say introduction, brief history, you know, ask for a comment from the Wilsons, present ideas, and then public input.
Okay. Do we have any other ideas for use other than the three that we've come up with?
I can jot down some ideas.
Okay.
You know.
You know, I think the best use is if they could subdivide it and somebody with some
I do
real
too.
interest.
To have a
Yeah.
lovely home again.
Oh,
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
a great location, I mean,
Yeah.
great neighborhood, I mean, almost like, and I don't know if they use that lot with where the stone wall is, but if they could include that, somebody could have a nice,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A great, a great historic contribution on the part of the Wilson family, if they were willing to do that, subdivide and sell it as a very special spot to live.
I think,
let's say you could repair the house, and I'm just pulling out a number, let's say $100,000 or $150,000. My gosh, that would be worth in today's,
Oh, yeah. It's
I
a
think so.
splendid house. Yeah.
that'd be worth $500,000,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
yeah,
In today's money,
right.
Yeah.
especially if you had like more than just the minimum lot size.
True.
And that would be a wonderful, you know, I think of Dr. Chamberlain's house, you know? I mean, that, you know, where's Dr. Chamberlain?
They figured out how to market to an audience that would appreciate a beautiful old home like that.
Good point,
Put the
Marion.
money in to restore it,
Mhm.
then it would be worth it.
Yeah, the price
I
would
mean,
have
then
to be
somebody-
right.
You might find a buyer.
They have realtors that specialize in antique
Oh, they
homes.
do?
Oh, yeah, yeah. So, yeah, I don't think that'd be
That's a
hard.
good idea.
Yeah,
You have to send me their name someday.
yeah, okay.
Yeah, me
Yeah,
too,
I'll need them in a few years.
tomorrow.
No, I gotta fix mine up first, so.
But another thing to remember too is, you know, the Wilson family is based in Lexington, Massachusetts. This certainly would not be happening in Lexington, Massachusetts.
Steve,
One of their
I can't
historic
understand
homes
it.
being
Good.
taken down.
Point.
He's saying,
Stephen.
Can you repeat that? Steve?
Oh, I
Hold on.
said, I'm not sure
Can I see
Marion's still there.
the screen just did something.
Sorry. I probably hit a button I wasn't supposed to.
And,
There we go.
but, you know, they did demolish the farmhouse that was down where the stand is. They kept the barn to turn into a stand.
Yeah.
But the old Nair farmhouse, they demolished. They demolished the little cottage in front
Yep.
a couple of years ago. They demolished Frank and Charlotte Hayes's house, which was a schoolhouse. So they have demolished historic properties.
Why did they tear down that Quonset hut? I would have thought that would
The
have,
little one in front?
yeah.
Maybe they're not housing their workers on their property anymore. I mean, they used to have workers there who lived year-round, but always did work on the farm. And it seems like when you go by in the morning now, the parking lot's full of cars. So they're coming from somewhere, but I don't think they're living on the property anymore. Even the house across from me, which they own, the brick house, there's an apartment in the front, an apartment in the back, and I don't think either of those apartments are farm workers.
When was that house built?
Which one?
The brick house?
Across from me? The same year as Robert Leary's house was built, which was about 1842. They
Okay.
used the same architect. They actually had an architect come through, and he built those two houses. And they are pretty identical, Greek Revival houses.
So those bricks probably were
Oh, they're Litchfield
harvested
bricks. Yeah.
here.
Yeah, and the Bixbys were owners of brickyards, as McQuestons were, and a lot of the other early families.
You know, there's a firm that advertises auctions, real estate auctions, and they might be interested in, that might be a way of marketing it.
Yeah, there probably are some good ways to market it if they would have an interest in pursuing that avenue.
I would actually start with the specialist, the old house specialist, and then maybe
Yes,
the auction
yeah,
would be the last
yeah,
resort, you know?
Alrighty.
Okay. So I'll put together what we talked about and send it out, and I guess we'll just wait and see what the turnout's gonna be for this hearing.
Can you run through the list of, or the,
What I have for the?
Yes.
Okay, sure. First part, introduction, explaining who we are, why we're doing what we're doing. 2, brief history of the house. 3, if the Wilsons are interested in making, comments on why they're doing what they're doing and explaining, that's the opportunity. 4, present ideas like we talked about, alternatives to tearing it down. And then 5, if there's any public input.
And this house has had 3 near misses in its life so far. When Howard Parker lived there and the big barn burned, which was a big wooden barn, the house was saved. Then just a few years ago, the replacement barn caught fire. I remember that, the Wilsons owned it, and that burned down. And they now have a new replacement barn. And this time it was the house,
The house
and
itself, yeah.
seems a shame to lose it after it's
After
3
this long
strikes.
track
Right,
record of
all of
survival,
that.
right? Okay. All right, anything else we need to,
No,
discuss with
but I
us?
was wondering, Kyle, if maybe we should just have a quick little jam session before the 25th, maybe after Marion gets up here, so we just go over.
Okay, yeah,
what
with the
we
new
each
agenda,
have.
yeah.
sure,
All right.
sure, yes.
We could do that, sure.
And no big deal, just to discuss what we've got.
Right. Okay,
I have a question.
go ahead.
You have the floor.
Okay. Have you, because I can't really hear too much, but I just wondered, has anybody discussed the possibility of how we're going to spread the word about this hearing to get some public interest in it? And I'm wondering if we can use the town's Facebook page, the Litchfield What's Up, and put something on there about it.
Good
I think
idea.
That would reach the most people.
Yeah, I think that's a very good
Well,
idea.
so-
I don't mind working on it with Gail maybe on the side to
Yeah.
put something on. I just wanted to make sure that it was gonna be okay if we did that.
Oh,
Just
I
to
I
raise,
can,
maybe take a picture of the sign that we have posted and, if, say, people wanna know what this is about and, maybe put some of the history of the town, of the house and so forth, little blurbs, and see if we can drum up some people to come to the meeting and express their, desire to try to preserve this historic home.
yeah, I'm pretty good friends with Jason Brennan, so I can ask him what he thinks.
Oh, he never has a problem when I put something up for the Historical
Oh,
Society.
okay.
I post things there all the time, but, so I don't anticipate them having a problem. I just wanna make sure that, because we're an official commission of the town, I didn't wanna violate some unwritten rule or something.
I think it's a great way to get the word out.
That would get a lot more reach than putting it in the paper. We have to put
They
it,
would get-
we have to
get
put it in the
word
paper
out more
anyway.
than being on the town website.
Right.
Right.
Just curious, when you say the paper, what are you
What
talking
paper?
about?
I'm not sure which one it was.
I
Was
think,
it the Union Leader?
No, I think that Kim was saying to me that it could actually be, because the papers have disappeared, the National Telegraph's gone, the Hudson News is gone, that you could actually put it on the town website.
That's
Yes,
good.
Telegraph's
it
And that
needs to
is-
be there.
The Telegraph is only published on Saturdays.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
The other option is the Union Leader.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's interesting because a lot of public notices have it built into the law that it has to be
Right. In a newspaper.
advertised in the local newspaper.
Right, that's where I was coming from with that. But
Today,
Which are disappearing.
right, the Union Leader's what, now 16 pages in 2 sections?
Exactly.
Yeah.
it's a total shame, you know?
It is.
And they have, and they're building on
Industrial
on
Drive.
Loeb Drive.
Yes.
That building they had, they only take up a tiny little space in that building.
Yeah.
The rest is taken up by other companies.
Because it's not printed there anymore, is it?
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And the National Telegraph's nothing but 3 pages of obituaries.
Yeah,
It's about the only thing it's good for anymore.
okay.
It's,
Once a week publication, the news isn't too current otherwise.
Right. Everybody's watching CNN or Fox News.
So where are we on the public notice? Where have we
Let me,
decided?
I'm not sure, I'll double check. It
Okay.
was-
And I think it should be checked through Kim Klein.
Yeah, Kim,
Yeah.
okay, yeah.
And is there a charge when you submit a public notice to a newspaper?
There is, but the.
And do we have a budget to pay for that?
I think the
We
town
don't
would get
have a specific budget, but we are allowed to expend funds. We had
Uh-huh.
to pay for the sign to be printed.
well, that's a good deal, huh?
Yes, yes.
I wish I had that deal.
All right, let's go to
Right,
Staples.
Right.
The
It
deal
actually-
is, we don't have a budget, but we can expend funds.
Right.
That sounds good, huh,
Yes,
Marion?
That's a dream come true.
Well, we had to have the sign.
Yeah, I wish I could run my house.
And,
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Our bylaws say that we could purchase property. Maybe we should buy
I
the
try
place.
to, I just don't get away with it.
Yeah.
Well, Mega Millions is 1.1
Yes,
billion.
there you
tonight.
go, there you
All right,
go.
I know what I'm doing, first thing tomorrow.
Okay.
I'm not overdrawn, I still have checks in my checkbook.
Yeah,
There you go.
Oh, yeah, right.
Alrighty,
okay, so, all right, so, meet again before the hearing. I'll talk to Jason Brennan, ask him about the paper ad, and, yeah, that was, okay.
and we should, the other part, which very few people look at, is the town website. But we need to post it there.
Right, it has to be legally posted
I
there.
think that
Okay.
Kim Kleiner is taking care of the postings for this meeting.
She-
I just wanted to do something.
Well, let's just
outside
double
of
check that
her.
though.
I just wanted to post on the Facebook page because I think we'll get more support.
That'll get way more
Well, yes, I think it'll, well, and it will give an
I
explanation to
think the
people when they're
readership of
driving
that
by,
is
they,
probably greater than the
just see
readership of
public
the
notice
Leader
and-
right now.
Of the What's Up page.
I think their readership might be higher amongst townspeople than the Union Leader, yes.
Or the town website.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I would say so, that's gonna get the most
That's
reach.
true, but yes.
you know,
But I believe that, I think Kim Kleiner is taking care of the notices about the
Right.
meeting.
Yeah, that was what her email said, I think.
I guess we should check those.
yes, we'll double check.
Yeah, I'm gonna
on
double
that.
check.
And Marion, will you rough out a sample of what we would put on Litchfield What's Up so that all of us can see it and perhaps contribute?
Did you hear that, Marion?
Wait, no, I can't hear anybody, so
Okay.
I can only hear you, Rich. I can't hear them.
Let's start a draft of what we would put on the What's Up page, and then
Yeah.
everybody can contribute.
Right, I mentioned I'd like to work with Gail on it, 'cause she's got
Okay.
good ideas on it.
Thank you, Marion.
as well.
And it would be good too, if you included a picture of the house.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
people, probably do not know the address. 152
Absolutely.
doesn't mean anything. But if you show the picture of the house, everybody knows the picture of the house.
Like an old picture and a new picture.
Yeah.
I agree. I'll work on something and I'll contact everybody and let them know what I need to post.
Okay,
Okay.
It sounds good.
I find that when I do something for the historical site, and I've worked with Gail on things for the church, that if you do it, you know, you can't do it too far in advance, you have to do it a few times, but at certain times is when you get the most people looking at it, etc.
Yes,
So, we'll work on it.
it's a good plan.
Thank you, Marion.
All right. We ready to move on?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so, at the beginning of the meeting, there was an opportunity to add something to the agenda, so I have no problem doing it now, certainly. You had some questions about the barn at the Dark Hole Ranch and how that decision was made?
Yeah, I guess I haven't thought about that in a while. I guess until I read your email today, that kind of escaped my mind. And I know by now certainly that ship has kind of sailed. It's my understanding.
Well,
but
still there, but yeah.
yeah,
it's-
yeah, for now, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, I guess so. The way that process went was the ruling that the building, there was a finding of no significance. Was that what the ruling was?
That's what we determined.
Yeah.
We knew ahead of time. Word on the street was that the developer was going to tear down
Yeah.
the barn and the other outbuilding.
And the house.
Yeah.
Well,
The house was to be demolished in the beginning.
oh, at the beginning, okay, I guess I didn't realize that. And so what the decision became was he was just going to demolish the, the barn and that other stable,
Stable. Yeah.
and save the house. And so the question was, are they historically, culturally, architecturally significant?
The barn and the stable, right?
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
The barn was savable, but
Yeah.
the trouble, Patrick, was, and the state has very rigid standards because they have their barn project statewide to evaluate old barns and sometimes provide some funding to restore them. But they have to be pretty much intact and original, and this barn was not.
Yeah.
Only a small section of it turned out to be early barn, and the rest had been added onto. Now, whether that was a result of fire or a hurricane or something damage, we don't know. And we felt very lucky to be able to have the house saved. And he agreed that he would save the house. And there'll still be 60 condominiums going in there. But because of the plan of the condominium layout, we couldn't save that whole section. That was a big section of theirs to develop.
There was talk about perhaps moving the barn
Yeah.
on the other side.
And even the house, down
Oh,
on
and
the
even
town
the
land,
house.
down to conservation land. But that was not feasible either. And part of the reason was because of the power lines to the south of the house.
Yeah.
Eversource didn't want to cooperate with us on that, from what I understand.
Yeah.
That's what I heard.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I heard from Jason Brunn. He said it was
Okay.
something about the height. It would have
Yes.
been too close within a certain number of feet. Yeah, I remember that as well.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess what I was curious about at the time was the determination about the significance piece and whether there exists like specific criteria on which you make that determination, if that makes sense.
Well, it is the, same thing we were doing tonight. It's the age of the building, the architectural or cultural significance of the building to the town. And certainly the age, it could be considered to be safe for hearing and so forth and so on. And I'm not sure that it's culturally significant. We know that it's not architecturally significant because of the alterations to it. And so we decided that we would be happy to have the house saved, and we would have to move on from that project.
Yeah.
It would be fabulous if we could save the whole thing, but it's
course.
not our option because we
Yeah.
don't own the property.
Yeah.
And no one, even when we have a hearing and present alternatives and so forth, the owner of the property is not obligated to follow that.
Right, yes.
They can still say, no, I've decided to tear this down and that's all there is to it. So we felt lucky to have cooperation to the extent that we could save the house.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, yeah. No, I understand. I was mostly curious, I guess, about the criteria
Yeah.
by which you make the decisions, but
I think we're glad you're interested.
Yes,
yeah,
we are.
No, I just think it's very important stuff, and I didn't realize until today, actually, that there was anything going on with this building either, so it's good to be.
Yeah, there's a
you know,
sign
well-
posted now in front that
Yeah.
we put up.
Yeah, I saw that driving by, but I couldn't tell what it said at
Right,
all
right.
until.
At the time you sent that first email, aside from that we already discussed, there was very, very little activity for us to get involved with. So we weren't meeting every month.
Yeah.
But I definitely wanted to invite you to, you know, what, this is actually the next real meeting
Yeah.
that we've had to get your,
Yeah.
to get your thoughts on it.
Yeah, yeah, and it seems I don't know. Like you said, they've torn down. I know. I remember from a couple of years ago when they tore down that white migrant worker housing out front. It seems like just a lot of change going on around that space.
Yeah.
And I know that I have so many memories associated with Wilson's, living here my whole life. So yeah, I think I just appreciate being in the loop. I think it's an important topic.
I mean,
And what do you think about that house?
I know a lot less about it than you all, of course. But I think that the most important thing I think is that I know a lot less about like the extent of the damages. But I think like to the extent that it's salvageable, I don't see why not. Especially if you were saying
I know.
like I have no idea about like the expenses that it would take. But if you could subdivide it and put it on the market and someone could buy that. I think that, like, number one, I think that would be a very attractive home for someone to purchase. I think that people would love that, number one, because of, like, the antique quality of the home, and number two, because of the location around the fields, looking out over DeRocher's, number one, and then number two, next to Wilson's. I think that's just a very desirable home. And I think just, like, the historic character as well. I think that it's really kind of a no-brainer in terms of, like, if you want to save a home in Litchfield, I think that's one to do it.
The stone wall itself.
Right, yeah.
It's much nicer than the one in front of my house.
Well, because there were so few stone walls left in town.
Yeah.
And it looks like it was built to last, you know?
Yeah.
It has lasted, yes.
Yes. So that in itself, you know, is such a selling quality. And if you could include at least some outbuilding in the lot, I think it'd be great, you know?
Yeah.
Alrighty.
Okay.
What year did you graduate?
Well, I went to Campbell for 3 years and I transferred out and went elsewhere. But I would have graduated in 2018.
Okay.
Oh, that's when my daughter graduated. Were you in?
Yes.
Were you in Godspell?
Was I in Godspell? I did a bunch of the musicals. I can't remember whether I was in Godspell. I don't think so. No.
Okay.
I think that was
Because
the one I didn't.
I thought that's where I recognized your name
Yeah.
from.
But I did chorus with
Okay.
Eli and with Connor. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
For a number of years. Yep.
Okay.
Any other business?
Yes, yes.
Okay. What do you
I
got?
wonder, since you're the president, Carl, and this is the first time we've been recorded, if we should say who we are.
Okay.
And you're the president, Marion's the secretary.
Yep.
I'm Gail Berenger, lifelong resident.
Mhm.
Stephen is our,
I am Stephen Cavallaro, and I'm
Historian.
president of the Historical Society.
Yes.
I've been on this question.
and Rich.
Rich Lascelles, I'm the, where's the camera, by the way?
There.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
You're on,
I
Red.
gotta get my good side, you know?
Right.
I'm
Cut to
the
camera 3.
Selectman's representative, and local yokel,
Storyteller.
State representative.
state representative, storyteller,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
And Marion.
And Marion,
Yes, Mary
Okay.
Colby, secretary.
I've been here a long time, but not as long as you guys.
You have the ceiling picture there, but that's okay.
oh, I'm sorry. And Marion has promised to bring back cheesesteaks
All right.
for all of us.
Oh, boy.
No, I didn't, but maybe I'll bring you some pretzels.
Okay. All right. That's fair.
We'll settle for that.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. anything, any existing business to discuss or any new business?
I'm not aware of any new
I
business.
think we covered it all pretty much, so, all right. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So
I-
move.
All right,
I'll
Rich,
second.
second by Gail. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, thanks, everyone.
We're adjourned.
Thank you.